Okay, so John, first question I'm going to ask you. We have your collection of absolutely stunning images, most of them taking in sub-Saharan Africa. I believe that's correct. You correct me if I'm
Yeah,
wrong. Can
yeah.
you explain, as a photographer, an artist, an adventurer, why particularly this region have you focused on, and what draws you to keep going back to this region?
I think it was the uniqueness of the experience and the people. I've traveled before in a lot across Asia, and I've had an incredible time there. But there is something particularly with going into traditional communities and a certain amount of the remoteness or marginal ways in which they live that just has a level of humanity and experience above what I've previously had in any other parts of the world. So I think that initially piqued and kicked off my interest. And then I've just met phenomenal people in those communities, sometimes aligned to the communities, people that have maybe lived in the communities but have learned some English and have been a fixer for me, and so have been they've been able to interpret. And Africa's got so many different languages, thousands more than the rest of the world combined. And so having that link to people that can help you have authentic experiences there is something that builds upon, that helps kind of act as a catalyst for the authentic experiences with people who are quite remarkable.
Well, I think the authenticity comes across, so much. You just have a skill of really capturing that person's soul, or almost. I know that sounds cheesy, but I don't know how else to say it. You've got a way of really, you feel like you're standing in front of that person, or even more, like kind of you get below the surface, which I mean, I presume it helps because as you say, you establish a relationship with them. I mean, is that how you go about it?
Yeah, although there's not a kind of cookie cutter way, I would say, because sometimes it's been opportunistic, like in some of the really marginal areas in the Sahel. You don't find habitation there, and you find people too isolated, maybe involved in transhumance, moving around with animals. So, in order to meet a number of people in one place, you kind of start to learn how people aggregate together, and the weekly market infrastructure across the Sahel in places like Mali, Niger, Benin, Burkina Faso is the kind of is this kind of glue that binds together lots of communities that come together, that trade, that have social experiences together. And in those situations, sometimes your engagement or your opportunity to get under the skin with people is perhaps less limited than when I go to visit a fixed settlement where you can spend time there. And so if I've found somebody who is absolutely magnetized me, and I feel so motivated to try and introduce myself to them, speak with my guide, be able to have the opportunity to photograph them if that's something that they want to do. Oftentimes I might only have 15, 20 minutes to be able to do that. They might be running, they're engaged in some subsistence thing where they're about to get on a vehicle, where they're perhaps traveling for 3 hours back to their community settlement with other traders. And so there's a mix of that period of time where I've stayed over in communities and I've had that indulgence and real opportunity and continued interaction with people. And then to capture some of these people, they have been fleeting moments.
Mm.
And working with my guide, we've really needed to sell ourselves and to try and get as much of an experience with that person or the people that they're with, but recognize that they're busy. They might be getting, they might have transport where the engine's going, and there's two people left on the vehicle, and I've got to try and capture something in 3 minutes.
So how do you know that that's the one that you want, that man or that woman, that's the guy, that's the portrait that you want? Is there something that triggers in your mind, or how does it work?
Yeah, I think some of that is a learned skill. And I think over time, with taking so many people's portraits, because of course, the pictures that you see aren't every picture that I take. That might be there's my my intuition for what will work, and I believe over time I've got better at imagining effectively what somebody in 3 dimensions, and how they grab me in 3 dimensions, actually being able to emulate and simulate what they will look like in 2 dimensions as an artwork. And sometimes beauty in 3 dimensions, or intensity, and kind of some really compelling aura of the person, it doesn't always translate into a picture or a piece of art. And I think that is a learned skill, to pick that up. And so there are times where I kind of, even today, will take a photograph of somebody who I'm convinced will just be my next best picture. But there's a variety of reasons why sometimes that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Some people as you can imagine, if somebody's photographing you, some people are, it's easier to do the work with them, and to try and get that moment with them where you really capture something special. Sometimes you try your backside off and it just doesn't happen. But I think I kind of, yeah, I think over time, I think I had an intuition for it. Well, I had an intuition for capturing the people that you see there. I'm not saying I've got an intuition to capture people better than anybody else, but for what you've seen in my artwork, or what you will see if you look at the book, if you like what I've captured there, then over time I've always lent towards people that have just completely transfixed me. And thankfully, in those communities, you find people like that more often than you do perhaps in our communities. But maybe that's because we're naturally more curious of people that are so different to us, and we have a different sense of familiarity. We have less of a sense of familiarity, and there are so many ways in which their appearance is just utterly fascinating and unique, and is so different to the norms that we're used to, that it basically is just, yeah, it's just magnetic.
I mean, magnetic is honestly, they are such stunning images. So we've made a collection of your works into NFTs. And everybody knows with NFTs, you don't have to worry about the same kind of boundaries as you might with physical artwork, whether that be the physical boundaries of hanging it on a wall or transporting it. In the same way, artists often find themselves working in different dimensions, I guess. I was thinking mediums, though. They bring animation into it, they bring sound, they bring all of this other stuff which you can add to a two-dimensional image.
Yeah.
In your case, there's no need at all. I think the reason what I'm saying is that they're so powerful, you wouldn't want to do anything to them. So my question in this situation is, what do you feel as an artist, or how do you feel as an artist? um uh, how do you feel that having your first collection of NFTs will add to your I want to say desire, your outlook as an artist to bring these images to the world? Like, how does making your own NFT collection like add to that?
Firstly, I've always been a believer in the blockchain, so that's something that interests me. So yeah, the power of where we might be heading with the blockchain in so many different applications excites me. And so that I had that before I knew about NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the democratizing aspect of that and moving away from central control and everything else has always been something of interest to me. In terms of the artwork, well, we've been through such a curious time, haven't we, with COVID? And when I did my last piece of work in Kenya in 2019, I spent an awful amount of time getting the work. I then spent a lot of time preparing the work and money and time and effort into producing big pieces of work for a big show in Battersea, and that was just at the time in the UK, and that was just at the time that basically the world was fearing going into lockdown, and right at that time, certainly in the UK, we were literally days away. It was like mid-March 2020, I guess it would be, and we were just about to go into a long winter of lockdowns and everything else, and so people were very very cautious about coming out, and so that I lost, in essence, my ability to show my work was really restricted because I'd spent all this time, money, and effort going, getting the physical artwork there ready, and so few people saw it, and so that the sort of physical print, the physical manifestation of the work was suddenly reaching less people. The end product of my artwork was tied to whether or not you felt comfortable enough traveling to that location or another fair somewhere else. We've just been through a period of time where we're kind of, unclenching from our natural caution about being around large groups of other people. And so I think it couldn't, I know NFTs have been around for longer than that point in time, but I think in a lot of, certainly in my perception of or understanding of NFTs and the audience of NFTs, mine sort of broadly aligned with what was happening in COVID. And then I've just seen that it opens up a whole set of other opportunities. I was firstly skeptical about what the virtual galleries would look like and everything, but I've been really pleasantly surprised at just a feeling of, I think with really nicely done kind of simple architectural work of, funnily enough, from a small digital image, there's a feeling of a human scale of walking around some of those galleries, which I was surprised at how effective that could be and how effective curation could be of the artwork. And so, for me, it's a really interesting opportunity to bring the artwork to a new audience of people. And yeah, I'm excited by being, by working with you guys and with being in a completely new medium for me. I do also have some ambitions, whether or not they're realized, in terms of doing something else with the beyond the straight NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that might be just a personal project that I do myself and kind of reskill and learn some things until I feel that I've augmented or built or done something stronger with the artwork. But I do see the possibility of diminishing rather than building.
I don't know. I think it's super interesting to get to find yourself like exploring new mediums. You'll probably find your way. I mean, it's your art. It's your. I think it's different when you're just doing it for the sake of doing it. I think if you're exploring, who knows what's going to come out of it. I don't think. And no, who knows? Maybe it won't be as strong, but you can but try.